All right, so Donald Trump, Kamala Harris only have a few hours left to make their final pitch to voters ahead of tomorrow's election. It will take 270 electoral votes for either of them to win the presidency. Right now, the path to victory for each candidate looks a little bit different. The same and different all at once, I guess. Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday. Scott Tranter, data science director, DDHQ. Do I have that right? Like, it's different but kind of the same.
It's different but kind of the same. You take that to the Bank America. It's different but kind of the same.
We're rolling with it. So these are the 7 states, right? You know this by now. The 7 key states. Let's get interactive here if we can. And Chris, really for VP Harris. All right, there we go. Great, thanks. 93 toss-up. 226 for her. She really has to run or at least gain most of the Midwest. As I flip across here and make those 3 Midwest states blue, you see how all of a sudden we get to 270.
Yeah, and the math is simpler for Democrats. They just have to win their states. If Democrats win their states, they win the presidency. It's harder for Republicans because they have to flip one. They've got to take one of those blue states, traditionally blue states, and turn it red. Kamala Harris can win without winning North Carolina. She can win without winning Georgia if she just keeps her own.
Right. All right, so let's talk about South Carolina and Georgia. I'm going to flip this back here for a second. So
North Carolina.
North Carolina, sorry. Thank you.
Maybe Ann Taylor has another poll.
Here, let me go down south, Scott, and talk to me about North Carolina and Georgia for a second, because now as we get back to the 7 key, DDHQ, you have numbers that if Donald Trump wins both of North Carolina and South Carolina, so let me flip it red now. All right, he gets to 251. You say there's like a 55% chance of that happening?
Yep.
And then that gives him basically like an 85% chance of winning the presidency.
Correct, because all he's got to do is win Pennsylvania or a combination of Michigan and Wisconsin and Arizona and Nevada. One of those 2 of the remaining 4. In poker, we call it he's just got more outs. But he's got to win Georgia, which he did not win last time, and he's got to win North Carolina, which Harris has been campaigning a lot the last 3 days.
So what I found fascinating, if he wins one, you basically gave him a 22% chance of him winning either one of North Carolina or Georgia, a 19% chance of him winning none. So there's some correlation there, I guess you could say, right?
Definite correlation. The other thing that's not in there, if those states split, North Carolina and Georgia, expect a long week, because all of a sudden, one of the candidates...
Let's do that for a second. Yeah. So maybe just flip North Carolina blue, for argument's sake. Okay, then we get to this scenario.
Yep, and then where Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, those could flip. Even if they all go one way, it's over for Donald Trump. Harris could win. But if those split, then all of a sudden Arizona and Nevada come into play. There's some scenarios where Arizona comes into play.
All right, so I'm back at neutral, Stirewalt. What are you looking for tomorrow night?
So it's been weird, which is Kamala Harris has not been able to put away her states. Right?
The Midwest.
The upper Midwest. Those are her states. Those are the Democratic states in the upper Midwest. She's not been able to put it away. Tied. She gets a little lead, but it's like this. And then another poll comes out and puts it the other way. So those have been real janky, as they would say in Minnesota, for Kamala Harris. So you say, oh, then Donald Trump's going to win. But he can't put it away in North Carolina and Georgia. He's got Arizona, it looks like. He's pretty consistently been putting up decent numbers in Arizona.
I'll put that red there.
Sure. Nevada. I love you, Nevada, but you don't poll right? You don't. You're frustrating. But that's Michigan and Nevada are the most Democratic of the swing states traditionally. Kamala Harris has not been able to seal the deal in the upper Midwest where she's supposed to. Trump can't seal the deal in the Southeast where he's supposed to, and so we find ourselves with a race that looks deadlocked.
All right, so let me take Michigan. So you basically Arizona looks red. You just said Michigan is, leans Democratic. Nevada leans Democratic. All right, here we are. Whoa, look at where we are now. 247, 230, and that's why, one of the reasons why, this guy right here, PA, comes into play, Tranter.
Exactly. That is the Keystone state, right? That's the one that's going to take it all the way there. That's also, polling-wise, that's the closest state. What else is interesting there? The gender gap that we've been talking about for a while, that's 10 points for Harris. That is the smallest gender gap she has in the upper Midwest. In Michigan and Wisconsin, it's more. So that's why it's so close there.
And you guys still have it, basically, if you win Pennsylvania, it's like 85% shot?
86% chance. It moved up a point.
You there?
Yeah, and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania right now look like the tipping point states. They're in the middle of the pack of the partisanship of the 7 states, right? Of the 7 states, they're 3 and 4, 4 and 3, depending on what you're averaging in. So they are the middle of the middle of the middle of how our states vote. And basically, Donald Trump wins either of those states, I suspect he will be returned to the White House. On the other hand, black voters are making this very challenging. There's two groups of low propensity voters that we're talking about here. We're talking about working class black voters, and we're talking about young men who typically don't vote. Donald Trump believes that he and Elon Musk can turbocharge the Call of Duty community to come out and do it and do all that stuff. Kamala Harris believes that African-American voters, particularly in North Carolina and Georgia, can do it. But guess what? If you're a low propensity voter, you're also hard to poll. So we don't know.
We don't know. It's the shoulder shrug emoji. Who's going to win? When are we going to know? Do you have an idea when we're going to know?
If I had to take a guess, night before, 50-50 shot, we know between 12 and 4. You'll know if we call Georgia and North Carolina before midnight.
2:33 a.m.
2:33 a.m.
There we go.
Stirewalt setting the over-under. Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.